The Ukrainian ambassador to the UK is with us here on the programme. Mr Ambassador, it's good to see you again. Thank you very much indeed for joining. The situation, the climate has changed so much in the couple of weeks or so that we have been chatting, maybe about 3 weeks now. Let's just start with those latest figures that we've seen. 90,000, just shy of 90,000 Brits have offered their homes to Ukrainian refugees who are tired, who are weary, who are frightened, who are leaving their country. I just a moment ago while we were listening to Jason, I said to you, can you tell me about any cultural challenges that people might face? And you laughed, you smiled. It's the first time I've seen you smile in a long time.
I can imagine these differences, but first I would like to tell you that we're humbled and impressed by the numbers. People opening up their houses, talking about the differences. Language is obvious reason for, being at least smiling, but even simple things like cuisine. It's like having French or Italian in your houses, so we have differences here, but I believe that both sides will be able to enrich their experiences.
Are you surprised that so many people have come forward?
I'm not surprised. I know that people are very reactive to these certain situations, people opening up their hearts, and we've seen it already by the reaction of this, some bureaucracies which, we've been following all this time in allowing people to get here. I know that outrage, people were quite unhappy that it's taken so much time. Now we understand why, because of all these procedures. Now I believe that everything intact. So I expected that at the end of the days, people will not be just frustrated as the bureaucrats, but will do themselves, will take the actions.
As a diplomat, it's tricky for you to get involved, obviously, in politics. But do you have a view on whether visa applications should be waived for now?
I had the conversations with many secretaries of your government, which is very great to have this access right now when we need immediate actions. And I understand how difficult the situation, how much they have to go through to get this decision. I also know that after all these waves and waves after immigrants, the societies are strained, and all the societies in Europe, they are quite have different approach now to refugees. Still very difficult for me to attribute word refugee to Ukrainians. We're still not there yet. I hope that since this time we will have much fluent process. And these kids, if you probably have seen it, there's kids with the cancer-treated kids.
21 children.
That's something. And I also know that another group of kids are coming here. These things, just melt in the hearts of the people in my mind as well.
And those are children also with cancer, the second group that are coming? My goodness me. How long do you anticipate people having to stay in the UK once they get here?
I know that most of the people, and I have to tell you about my own family, who are now in Slovakia, they already wanted to get home. They don't want to go any further. They already have stress of being exposed to the culture with no nothing. Everything they earned over the years, everything they owned over the years is now nowhere. They have to start a new life. Some people are at the very end of their lifetime. They have to restart. So they would rather go back home than moving anywhere further, like UK or other nations of the West. More Western Europe.
And that's the thing with refugees. Most of them don't want to move too far away from home. They're hopeful that they'll be able to return to their home country just as soon as possible. It does look as though the onslaught by the Russians has stalled somewhat. Is that a reasonable assumption?
They stopped at some points, but they're still bombarding cities, and they start to bombarding more western cities of Ukraine. Kyiv is under bombardment, but cities like Mariupol, the Sea of Azov, it's very east of Ukraine, the south of Ukraine. There are thousands of people already killed because the Russians are besieged in a very medieval way. That's very difficult to observe and trying to help them.
What do you mean?
Barbaric. Putin was so proud of his Leningrad, where he was now at St. Petersburg, and it was besieged in the Nazis' time. They lost so many people over 2 years of this blockade. Now he's doing the same to another city of very Slavic, formerly being used brothers.
You mean targeting hospitals, targeting residential areas?
They're targeting everything, and they know that they are not allowing the food into the city, the water into the city. They're not allowing people to get out of the city, civilians, kids, women, everybody.
I read and heard that people were drinking water from their radiators because they couldn't access water in any other ways. Is that a story that you've heard?
Problem is that this very very seashore city, water at the wells is quite salted already. So you have to actually provide the normal potable water, which was provided through pipelines and the canals. Now most of them are cut. We now have to think in the 21st century how to get water in the city, not even food.
Putin's aide, one of Putin's aides, has said that they are progressing slower than they anticipated. Russia has looked to the Chinese dragon to support them. Do you think they will?
I believe the Chinese are now watching them and eyeing the Siberia, what they always wanted, the resources from Siberia, Russia. They don't believe that Russia is the equal partner. They wanted the resource base for them. So China will definitely play their own game. And I see the United States are now engaged with China, trying to understand and trying to understand where the Chinese are right now. I guess the Russians won't have much help from China. But Russia by itself is still very dangerous to Ukraine.
In what way?
Well, militarily, they're still progressing, as you mentioned, and they could not have Kyiv in 2 days, as they bragged and promised. They're still moving, and their machinery is still huge. We still have to take care of the Russians. We don't care about the Chinese rockets or whatever they're asking from China.
The fight is not in the air because it doesn't seem that the Russians have the drones and the other military hardware that they need in the air. That's why they're looking to China to try to provide them with that. As a result, it's hand-to-hand combat in places on the ground. Is that what you mean when you talk about it being barbaric?
The way they're indiscriminately bombarding cities, they've been talking about liberating Ukrainians from some Nazis governments and all this bullshit. Now we have to fight with them in territorial defense, just normal folks like we, fighting for their cities and villages. So all of this, and they're using the barbaric, like thermobarometric, the weapons, which are more or less called vacuum bombs, which kill everybody in buildings and everything. They use everything against us.
We know that sanctions are continuing to increase, and we'll be hearing in just a moment or two about even more sanctions that are being put in place. You want more than that, don't you?
We want everything which will allow us to survive. And with the sanctions, we have to apply more until they stop. If he is not stopping because the sanctions are not enough, that's when we ask for so many times, we need the weapons to be able to defend ourselves, because those are like two hands, weapons and sanctions. If sanctions not working, they are going more with weapons and coming more and sending more and more troops into Ukrainian territory. We have to take care of this part, but sanctions have hit him hard. So people of Russia will tell Putin that you're actually going down, but you're pulling us with yourself. We have to do something to get somehow to their heads and minds.
Your president, finally, if I may, your president has the heart of a lion. He is respected right around the world, most of the world at the moment. We know that he has remained in situ. In fact, we saw him walking to see some injured troops at a hospital just the other day. As the Russians move further and further into Kiev, he has a decision to make, whether he stays and fights or whether he leaves to fight another day. What do you think he'll do?
Many people would say that he had to be moved somewhere further to Carpathian Mountains. Putin already in Ural Mountains, hiding in a bunker. But Ukrainian leader made his mind, and he mentioned it on a number of occasions, that he's staying and fighting. I know you can judge how it is important for us to have a leader safe and be able to coordinate the effort. But at the same time, he believes that what he can do, he would allow military to fight, but him to raise the awareness of people. He will talk to your prime minister today and many leaders who came today. He is going around city. He's showing support, and he's coming to the wounded ones to support them as well as families. Ukrainians see him. Ukrainians are ready to fight.
So the president will stay and fight to the death if necessary?
That's what he said, and that will believe all of us.
OK. It's always good to see you.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll be able to talk again under better circumstances. But for now, thank you for taking the time to join us. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.